So it turns out those Chinese spy balloons that flew over the United States, they did a lot more damage than we think they did. Now stick with me because it turns out China is in the best position possible to send as many spy balloons as they want over the United States. Now, I always try to be fair and down the middle with my reporting, and it turns out China actually accused the United States of flying 10 spy balloons over their airspace in 2022. And when I did a quick Google search, and it was really not that hard to find, the United States has admitted to, yes, we use spy technology in the form of high-altitude balloons. This is a program that we have today. Now, spy balloons have been used since the Civil War, but what's really interesting is the way that spy balloons are used today, it's rather complex and really smart. And I promise we will get to why China can send as many balloons as they want, but you need to understand the tactics behind the modern day spy balloon. You see, back in the day, you would just tether a rope to a spy balloon, send it up in the air, and hopefully you don't float away and Johnny can pull you back in. But nowadays, spy balloons have to deal with radar systems, and spy balloons have to deal with satellites looking down on them. So how are spy balloons getting away with this, and how did China implement tactics to fly balloons over the United States, not only in 2023, but previously during the Trump era, and that's all we know? Well, we live in a world of predictability, and within the Earth you have what are called jet streams or wind streams, and these are streams of air or wind that flow in a certain pattern or direction, and they constantly do that. So it turns out when you look at a jet stream map or a wind stream map, China can launch as many balloons as they want because naturally with the flow of the jet stream, balloons are going to hit the United States, Central America, South America, they even hit up in Canada, but there's a lot more to this. Because even on a non-military level, the use of an airstream or jet stream, that's used by hot air balloons and hot air balloon enthusiasts. I don't know who'd be crazy enough to do that. They even recognize and know their local jet streams and they can guide their hot air balloon rather accurately. But remember, I had mentioned predictability, and one thing that is rather predictable is the pattern of satellites flying over the United States. You can actually track these things, and that's one of the tactics spy balloons need to do to be successful for their mission. Now, this can get very complicated because you have things such as high Earth orbit, low Earth orbit, and so on. But let me just use the map of the International Space Station so this all makes sense. So what's cool about the International Space Station is that we can track it in real time. Like you can do a quick Google search and you'll know exactly where it is. And in a 24-hour period, the International Space Station will orbit the Earth about 16 times. Now, what a spy balloon can do to maximize evading satellites or any sort of visuals from above, they can predict or track a satellite that might be a threat to a spy balloon, and they can move between the gaps of where the satellite, or in this example, the International Space Station is orbiting. The next easiest possible way I can explain this tactic is like in a video game when you have somebody guarding a location back and forth. As the guard is over here, you can move past them and then the guard goes back and they missed you. That's essentially what spy balloons are doing up in the air. Now, here's what's a little concerning about the Chinese spy balloons that flew over the United States. Initially, we were given a visual of like the Chinese spy balloon just flew over the United States, did a little bit of spying, and all is good. But it's not quite that simple because the Pentagon also released the fact that one of the spy balloons was actually doing a figure-8 maneuver and spying on one location and then continued their course. And as we know, this is a maneuver and tactic to either avoid a satellite from above or to avoid being tracked by radar systems. And one thing you need to know with modern day spy balloons and the one that China had, they have small engines that could actually direct the spy balloon where they need to be. You need to realize as well, with these engines that the spy balloons have, they can hover at over 80,000 feet, and that's really dangerous and that's really difficult because even for modern day helicopter pilots, one of the hardest things you can do is actually hover or just stay stationary. Now you bring that up to 80,000 feet, that's rather hard. Now I understand hovering at low altitude as opposed to high altitude, you have way more of a risk assessment there, but nonetheless, it's still impressive. Now, one of the biggest concerns when it comes to these Chinese spy balloons is how difficult they are to track them or to find them by using radar. I would even argue that the most damage China did to the United States was expose how the United States' radar capabilities are just not there yet when trying to track a spy balloon. So, to be fair to the United States, because we do the exact same to China, it's very difficult to track these spy balloons with good reason. These spy balloons are designed to not be tracked by radar systems. Essentially, spy balloons, as we all know, are made up of soft material with small metallic footprints, so some sort of rechargeable system or some sort of engine system. So the biggest downfall for China using these spy balloons, or really any country using spy balloon tactics, is that once you get caught, you get caught. And as we all know, in the case of the United States, the spy balloon was shot down by an F-22. There was a lot of concern as to why we let this spy balloon keep flying over the United States, but according to the DoD, they wanted to minimize the impact of a debris field over the United States. Now, I'm not one to put out these doomsday scenarios or to put out speculation because I hate fearmongers on YouTube, but nonetheless, who's to say that China, if at war with China, they don't just send a ton of these spy balloons over our country? Or as they say, weather balloons. Maybe we have like a tornado, they just want to check it out. But nonetheless, again, what if they do send all these balloons over the United States? Do we have the capability to stop them? Do we have the capability to track them? These are all questions that the DoD probably is trying to figure out and is trying to solve. And you know damn well in their situation room or headquarters and whoever's in charge of all of this, they are stressing. Because when you think about it, one of the main ways that we tracked the spy balloon was with airline pilots spotting it out and people on the ground quite literally saying, "Oh my gosh, there's a balloon up in the air." So let me know what you think about these spy balloons coming over from China. Should we be concerned? Are we overhyping the situation? Are we being hypocritical to the situation considering the United States has the same exact spy balloon program? And again, the one thing I do want to put out there is that spy balloons are low cost, but they are very hard to implement in real-time strategy. Being able to avoid satellites coming above you, being able to avoid radar systems, it's not all that simple. It's rather complicated. And the fact that China has been able to pull this off, that's a little scary.